All right. Welcome back, everybody. Clearwater Jazz Holidays Young Lions Jazz Master Virtual Sessions. We are here with our good friend John O'Leary and a special guest, Shaun Martin. Shaun, what's up?
Hey, how's everybody doing?
We are good, man. We are so excited to have Shaun with us for a continuation of our Conversation With series, this time hosted by John O'Leary. John is a really special part of Clearwater Jazz Holiday community education and outreach, a regular participant in many of our programs, including our My Journey with Jazz program, which benefits students in more economically challenged pockets of our community and neighborhood family centers, as well as our Young Lions Jazz Master sessions in the traditional sense at a special event we do at the end of every year, and also in the schools working with band directors. This has been a really fun adaptation of that series, and we're building this wonderful treasure together. And we have John back with us, a member of La Lucha locally in Tampa Bay, one of the most popular jazz bands around here. Has been actively performing at a lot of Clearwater Jazz Holiday events, our Wanderlust music series, as well as other events throughout the Tampa Bay area. They got some new albums out. You got to check it out. Awesome stuff. John's one of my favorite people, and we've got producer, performer, artist Shaun Martin with us today. Shaun is just such a dynamic individual and such a pleasure. We're so happy to have him with us. I think the last time we were together was with a Weather Report tribute that Shaun played at Clearwater Jazz Holiday Music Festival on the big stage with some incredible musicians. It was such a magical night. I'm sure we'll talk a little bit about it, but I'm going to turn it over to John O'Leary to kind of take this away with Shaun, and the stage is all yours.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for having me. It's always a pleasure and an honor to share this with you guys. And thank you so much, Shaun, for doing this, man.
Absolutely.
You're amazing, and this is going to be so much fun. Yeah, man. So, man, I remember the first time we met, and just to give people a little context, it was at the Crowbar
Hmm.
for Snarky Puppy's release of We Like It Here.
That's right.
And I came up to you after the show and told you how much I liked it and how, we were talking about synthesizers. And I said something like, man, I need to go practice my synthesizer playing. And your response shocked me. You said, yeah, me too. And I was like, wow, this is that kind of guy that he is. Consummate, professional, it just like, made me so happy in that moment. I was like, wow, that's the kind of person I want to be. Like, to be like, yes, let's continue to always work and have that attitude
Right.
towards whatever you're doing. Man, so you've been in this music thing for a long time now. How did you get started in music? How did you tell me how about you becoming Shaun Martin? What is?
Well, that's uh that's a loaded question, but I'll do my best to answer it. No, so I started playing like around the age of 4. My mom kind of noticed that I had like a little thing, so she immediately she saw me pecking around on the piano at church, this, that, and the other. So she went out and bought a piano, and then right after she bought it, she went and found a piano teacher. And coincidentally, the piano teacher that she found lived the next block over from where I grew up. So, I mean, at 5 and 6 years old, I would just walk into my piano lesson, 2 times a week. It was like it's the greatest thing. A lady named Carolyn Campbell, who I miss dearly. Um, but she was the one that really kind of guided me. Miss Campbell, she wanted to kind of guided me. And my mom she just kind of saw the vision. And her thing was, my mom's perspective was, if I was going to do it, she wanted me to be well versed in it, meaning, not just play by ear, not just go around and try to pick out stuff,
Yeah.
but, get an understanding of, the theory, get an understanding of, music history, get an understanding of all of it, and become well versed in it. So that was kind of like my whole upbringing, if you will. You know, I've studied
Yeah.
classical, I studied jazz with Miss Campbell. Then I went to Performing Arts High School here in Dallas, Texas. I went to Booker T. Washington High School for the performing and visual arts. It's a very legendary school. It's a school that produced great students such as Erykah Badu, Nora Jones, Roy Hargrove, Shaun Martin, Robert Seawright.
Hey.
So studied there for for a few of my high school years, and then went from there to Weatherford College, where I studied with a great jazz guitar player named Tom Burchill. And Tom is easily probably one of the baddest guitar players you'll ever hear. But he just likes to play at school and church. I mean, like that. His thing is more so imparting into people than it is, touring and all that kind of stuff,
Yeah.
And he was great, great teacher. Then from there, I went to University of North Texas, where everything is kind of supremely escalated.
Nice.
So, that's kind of pretty much how I got into that's how I came to the knowledge of what it is I do.
Yeah.
As far as the who the Shaun Martin is, that was pretty much the relationships. So, going to Booker T afforded me the opportunity to meet a guy named Robert Seawright, who had his mom had started a community choir called God's Property that worked with a guy named Kirk Franklin from Fort Worth.
Oh my gosh.
That ended up selling however many, but what is that? 2 million copies or something like that, So that was that. And then me and Kirk, we just stayed in contact, as well as, being in Dallas and meeting Erykah and working with Erykah on her records. And then being in North Texas and meeting Mike Lee, and Miles Maher, on a fluke, because they were younger than me. I mean, but they're still younger than me. Wait, that means I'm old, huh? Well, yeah. Yeah, I'm getting old. Yeah. So I mean, so that so everything, like I said, that the information came, from the processes, but the becoming part came from relationships. So I'm very, very grateful for those relationships, actually.
Absolutely. I love that you talk about process, because sometimes the process is right, even if we don't get the results that we're looking for.
Right.
But that, and that's part of the thing, is to keep at the process long enough to see results, and it's not always the results. A lot of the times it's just trusting that you're doing the right things and continuing on the path and building on each little success that we get.
That's right.
Yeah, by the way, I wanted to go back. You said you started taking lessons and your mom bought you a piano?
Yeah.
Right off? Dang.
Yeah.
That is a supportive parent.
I think it was twofold. I think she bought me a piano because, she wanted to support, that she could kind of see that I, had an interest in playing music. But I think she really wanted that piano for herself, and I was just kind of like the beneficiary of it.
Nice.
Because my mother, she does love music. She doesn't play, she sings, but she's always wanted to play.
Yeah.
But and I've tried to teach her. She's had a few lessons here and there from other people, but that process, is where the fire is, right? So. It's just a matter of, a matter of her. And my mother worked hard. My mother worked diligently. She always held down a job. Always made sure that me and my sister had what we needed. And my mother and father, they're still together. I think they're celebrating 46 years of marriage this year.
That's amazing.
Which is amazing. And they've been. I know it's 40. I think it's 46 years of marriage, 50 years of being together.
Wow.
So I applaud them every chance I get, because I've been married almost 10. I just don't want to get put out the house.
Yes,
What I'm saying?
exactly.
Like just don't put me out the house and I'm fine.
Right.
So Yeah. But I think she really just wanted that piano for herself, and I was just able to be the one to,
That's
practice on
amazing. Yeah, pianos are beautiful in a home. It used to be
it.
that
Yeah,
people had pianos in their home all the time.
all the time.
And that's
Hmm.
what they did because we didn't have TV and stuff. That's what they did before radio. They
Hmm.
would meet after dinner and play. Someone
Hmm.
would play and they would sing, and that was the entertainment. And so
That's
instead of
right.
CDs, you would get, sheet music,
That's
and
right.
that's how you
That's how
heard the
publishers came
popular
about.
music.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
right. Hmm.
exactly. So which is wild. Man, so okay. So you are taking lessons at a young age, and did you play at church as
Oh
well
yeah.
as when you were a kid?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes a huge difference. I think having that, uh, having reinforcing everything that you're learning, and having somewhere where you can talk about music without being in a formal
Right.
setting. Talk to me about that. What was it like playing music in the church, and did you started playing the piano right away, or did they put you in organ, or how did all that happen?
No, I actually in church I actually started playing drums first, and
What?
so I started playing drums first because we had an organ player guy named Stanley Glenn that is a phenomenal organ player, right? So I played drums, and I just noticed how cool Stanley was, right? Like Stanley would like come and play at church, but he had like his toothpick like inside his mouth. It was like real cool. So that was always, intriguing for me. And I always wanted to find the balance between, you know, these Beethoven songs and these
Mm,
spirituals and these hymns. So that was always, a great dichotomy for me. So it was a matter of, just really learning. And I, I say hymns because that's what taught me the foundation of all the gospel music. And then I started getting into, the Thomas Dorseys, the Thomas Whitfields, the Winans, the Hawkins. Like there's a whole big ginormous ball of these phenomenal, and of course when you say gospel, everybody thinks, Kirk Franklin,
yeah.
but but his predecessors are so meaty. And a lot of their music is really tied right back into, or it's intertwined, I'll say, with
Yeah.
jazz and blues and everything. So, it was one of those things where as I kept listening and, kept, discovering, I just kind of kept being more intrigued. And then the way my house was set up, which I still love to this day because they're funny. My parents are funny. One day I want to do a reality show with them because they're funny. So my mom is very spiritual. My mom is very
Mm,
religious. She's the reason why we went to church in the first place. Every Sunday, every Wednesday
mm,
night, that was her thing. But that's how she was raised as well. So religion for her was a religion. Without being overbearing. She would
yeah.
always tell
Yeah.
us, you know, religion is great. Religion has its place. We're Christian, but always learn how to take the meat, and spit the fat. So that's one thing you have to learn about that. It's like, okay, cool. Well, that's going on upstairs. Downstairs, my dad's listening to John Coltrane, BB King. Upstairs, my mom was listening to like Mahalia Jackson and Andre Crouch, just listening
Yeah.
to like all these like heavyweight gospel people. And then downstairs, it's like my dad was like, you know, Mudbone or like Mississippi Delta Blues or something. It's like this is the weirdest
Wow.
thing, but it was always cool to me, you know.
Yeah.
So that was, like I said, it was always, the discovery, that kind of always put together. But playing in church, man, it really cuts your teeth. Because one thing, especially one thing about the African American church, and this is true, you know, you either got to come with it or don't come at all. Like that,
Mm,
there is no, because just like I played drums, there was two other drummers right behind me, waiting for me to mess up.
mm.
And if you mess up, they're gonna give you that look.
Wow.
and you get up off the drums, somebody else will come over there, and they gonna play. You know, I mean, same thing with organ. Same thing with organ and piano, man. You know, you mess up, there's somebody that's sitting right there waiting, and they're gonna be like, all right, you out of here. Who's next guy? So you learn how to adapt real quick, and a lot of times you learn how to play by ear really fast because like the church I grew up in, somebody might just start singing from like the ninth pew. Take the Lord along with you. It's like, lucky for me, I had perfect pitch, so it's cool. I could just hop in, but yeah, it was rough. But it was so much fun. It was so much fun. I wouldn't trade those days for anything in the world.
Wow, that is incredible. Yeah, I grew up in the Presbyterian church, and so it was very classical music when we played, or hymns. But I didn't get that same experience because it was more like you practice at home, then you just play during they're collecting the offering, and you play your thing. And it was less improvisational, no real jazz. Everything was very like structured. But a cool thing was like singing in the choir. And so learning to sight sing is great. So then people like you're a kid and you're like, oh yeah, I play the piano, so I can read bass clef and treble clef, so I could just sit in anywhere and just sight sing. Yep. And it was so much fun to get that kind of practice that you wouldn't get. And something about the repetition, about like you're going to your lessons, you're practicing. Then you go to church, you're playing with other people, they're showing you things, you get more. You're listening to the music, you have to learn for that. Then you're also, learning whatever you're learning for school. So were you when you were in high school, would you continue to play in the church? Or once you went to high school, okay. So then in high school, did you play another instrument? Were you in the wind ensemble and that kind of thing? Or did you
in high school, I played a little bit of trumpet. So when I was in elementary school, I had a band director named Allison Tucker. And so the piano, I was gonna do the piano thing because I was already taking piano lessons anyway.
Yeah.
And they were full. And so it was like, well, okay, well, you play in a band. And so again, I played drums at church, so I was like, I'll just play drums. It's like fourth grade, like fourth grade probably. Like I just play drums, in the band. And so Mr. Tucker, one day he said, hey man, problem was because I've been playing drums at church for so long at this point, which is, I don't know, 4 or 5 years. And I've been around so many great drummers. Well, the guys that were trying to learn, they couldn't really learn because it's like, I'm kind of overplaying and I'm overplaying. So it was like, he was like, you should pick another instrument. And I was like, okay, I'll try something. And so I, did trumpet. And so picked up trumpet. So after the first, in Texas, you have what's called, I don't know if they do this everywhere, but they have what's called, the first 6 weeks, second 6 weeks, third 6 weeks. Or, and so the grading periods happen every 6 weeks, right? So after like the third 6 weeks, he was like, okay, you can play trumpet. You should pick another brass instrument. Yeah. I was like, okay, well, maybe I'll try the French horn because the French horn, you got to stick your hand through the, I was like, that looks kind of cool. I stick my hand in it, tried that. So after he was like, yeah, okay, well, let's try trombone. Okay, I'll try trombone, so then I started learning, all positions, though, 1, 6.
Yeah.
He's like, okay, well, let's try the flute. He's like, okay, let's try the flute. All right, well, fine. I figured out all the other ones, and so I ended up playing like all these brass instruments, flute's a woodwind instrument, but I ended up playing all these brass instruments. And then he was like, let's try the saxophone. I was like, yeah, I don't want to do the whole reed thing. The whole, you got to wet the reed all day long. Yeah. The mouthpiece, I would literally have, like, when I play trumpet, I would literally keep my mouthpiece with, because I love my mouthpiece to be warm. So I keep it with me all the time. It was always with me, But that reed, then we're going to wet the reed. Nah, that wasn't my thing, But in high school, I did play more. I played probably more drums than I did anything else, because I did have to go to a regular high school for a minute, and I was able to do drum line at that school.
Oh, cool.
Right. And then which was not overwhelming. It was a great experience, actually. Shout out to, I think Mark Wessels works at Zildjian. He's a great guy.
Oh, cool.
But I lived to do that there. And then once I got back to Ars Magnet is where I became Ars Magnet's Booker T. That's where my love for synthesizers came about. And so, rather than play like trumpet or something in the wind ensemble, we had like a plethora of synthesizers. Like, I'm talking about everything from like, John, we had everything.
Oh my gosh.
John, we had everything. So like, so in the MIDI lab alone, there were, back then they had a controller called a Yamaha KX88. Right? So you had all these KX88s, and they were all hooked up to second generation Macintosh computers.
Oh my gosh.
And a sound canvas, right? So we learned how to sequence, we learned how to do it. And then that's like in the middle of the room. And then lined up around the sides of the room, there's mini moves, poly moves, OV8s, EMU 16s. You learn how to sample.
Oh my gosh, you weren't kidding.
We had everything. We had every. It was like a mini Full Sail.
Oh my god,
for real.
That is dope. Wow.
So that more so became my thing, after a while.
Wow. So you didn't have to like do an wind ensemble. You could take you could be in the lab class and then do your jazz band class.
Yep.
Then you could be like a full-time band kid, but without doing another instrument. So when did you give up the drums? When did you decide like the piano was the thing?
I never really gave it up, because I still play. I actually got to play Friday night. Play drums Friday night, but I just figured I'd make it. I had a band director one time at in high school, at another high school that I went to, Justin F. Kimball, and he said something very important. He was like, one thing about drums, it's like everybody can play drums as long as they have a heartbeat. Everybody can do that. It's like, do something different. And that was true. He was like, everybody plays drums. Everybody has a heartbeat.
Yeah.
He was like that's a drum. He was like, everybody does that. So make sure you stay on the paths that are different.
Wow.
That's Mr. Holmes, Morris Holmes.
My gosh, that's incredible. Well, that's an amazing experience.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I've had a pretty great life.
Yeah.
I've had a pretty great life.
Yeah. Yeah, especially for a high school student, to have like all these opportunities, and also that you had like that desire to like keep learning and learn how these things were being done. Sometimes, in high school, it's easy to be like, just show up and kind of
yeah,
know? Yeah,
sure.
so that's pretty amazing.
Yeah, I'm still. I gotta say this. I'm sweating because I went for my run earlier and my body hasn't cooled off. So that's why I'm sweating. I'm not like paranoid or anything. Like, I keep like, it's Texas, man. Just the other day it was like snowing out of control. Today it's like 80 degrees. So I got to go. I went to go run before this.
Oh my gosh.
It's so hot outside, and
my gosh.
Yeah.
That's insane. I'm so glad that everything was cool with you during that situation.
Yeah, for sure. Texas is a trip.
Man.
But yeah, man. Yeah. Those high school experiences were, they were very shapely for me. They made a lot out of me.
Wow, that's wonderful. I didn't know you still played the drums. That's really fascinating. A lot of like really great pianists play the drums. Like Chick Corea, I had no idea he was a drummer. And then somebody's like, "Oh, listen to this 3 quartets with him and Michael Brecker doing a duet, and it's Chick on the drums with Michael.
That's right.
So, and he was really good. So that's fascinating. There's,
And
yeah,
all those Jack DeJohnette records where where Jack was
yeah.
playing piano.
He plays piano. He
Hmm.
has a solo piano album. Like, how many
Yeah,
drummers do
yeah,
you know have solo piano albums? You know what I'm
exactly,
saying?
exactly.
Wow, that's wild. Okay, so then you're in college. You're taking lessons with. You were mentioning your guitar teacher, or the guitar teacher that was really great. Was he like the was so like at this point you're starting to. I guess did you already decide you wanted to make music for a living? How did were you already like in it? Was
Yeah,
that your identity?
yeah. I was already in it because like the whole God's property thing happened like my freshman year in college. Like that started to blow up my freshman year in college. So,
Mm,
it was a thing. It was like, okay, well, if I'm going to do this, I got to do it all. And then I was really, really exposed to being able to travel, like that with God's property, because we were doing things that most gospel choirs weren't doing. I mean,
oh wow.
we did, pretty much every award show except the Grammys at the time.
Oh my gosh.
Um,
That's
I mean,
amazing.
we did a lot, and so I was exposed to a lot of the people that were just coming, just coming out, and seeing all these different producers, all these different players, and it was like, and because back then you had album credits, so so when you meet, a Mario Winans, you know exactly who it is, or when you meet an Arif Martin, you know exactly who it is, or like you were able to see these people that you were able to read about
Yeah.
on these credits.
Yeah.
And that's when I really started going down the rabbit hole of Quincy Jones. And I was like,
Oh.
okay, I want to be that kind of producer, you know,
Whoa. So you
and
were
so
already thinking about producing.
oh yeah, yeah, yeah. That was a big moment of contention in my house. It was a really big moment of contention because my dad was like, hey man, you need a job. And I'm like,
Oh.
I possibly do need a job, house or never.
Hmm.
It's like, I'm gonna try this out. I'm trying, and I told my dad, I said, Dad, listen, I'm gonna try this out. I went to college. Got my degree. We were good. I'm gonna try this out. If I make it, cool. If I fail, I'll move back home. He was like, man, you better make it because you can't come back home.
Oh man, he's already giving you a little extra to
Yeah,
work that a
exactly.
little bit harder. Like, don't
Hmm.
expect us to just open the door for you.
Right, right, right. Yeah, man.
Man,
Definitely
that
true.
every family I think has that, like the one parent that's super supportive, and then the one parent that's more realistic. My
Hmm.
house was the same. My mom like wrote all these applications for me, mailed like application packages for college, and she was very supportive always. Like, do you want to be a musician? Go for it, do it. My dad was like, well, pump the brakes on that.
Right.
Listen, look, you could be a doctor, and you know and he my dad's an artist, so he wanted, I don't think he wanted the artist life for me. He
Right.
wanted me
Mm.
to have more stability and security, and uh you know a different rat race, not the same,
Right,
not
right,
the
right.
artist rat race, you know and so I I we always butted heads over that because I wanted him to be like, yeah, Johnny, go for it.
Right.
And instead, it was more like, no, I have to prove to you that I can do this.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know?
Oh yeah. Man, listen, I totally when I was working with Erica Badu, uh
Mm. You can say that
and
again.
I was working with Erica I was working with Erica Badu, man. And so we did there's an album that she put out in 2000. It's called Mama's Gun.
Mm.
And so I was working with her, writing and producing with her. And the first time that I received a royalty check, and I didn't know how all this at the time. 2000, I was a junior in college. I didn't know how all this stuff worked, right? I was like, okay, cool. I didn't know. I know an entertainment lawyer. The most I'd done was all the gigs that we did with God's property. I didn't know the business of it, right? I knew the performance aspect of it. I didn't know the business of it. So we're sitting there, and so I'm talking to, which is such a conflict of interest. I was talking to her lawyer.
Yes,
such a conflict of interest. But it's funny is like he's my lawyer now, but
oh my gosh.
But I was talking to her, and so I was kind of like, hey man, like I just kind of need like a little bit of guidance, and he was giving me that look like, I really shouldn't be saying anything to you, but we worked a few things out, and he was able to guide me in the right directions, and point out some of the things that I should probably get changed in my songwriters agreements and yada yada yada. And okay, cool. So I'm sitting there, and my first royalty check comes. I mean, it was a nice sum. It wasn't like $1 million like that. It was a nice sum. So I tore of course, my dad was saying, boy, you need a real job. Go get you a real job. You need a real job. Because both of my parents retired from General Motors, right? I mean, like they worked like a real job. Like they were, 30, 40 years, worked at General Motors. So it was like their whole, my dad was like, hey man, I get it. You want to live the dream, but you need a job. Yeah. And I'm like, yeah, but I'm gonna try this out. So then I get my first check stub, and I tear off the stub. Of course, I go deposit it. They put the hold on and all that kind of stuff. But I left the stub on the table, on the kitchen table. I circled the amount, and I said, do I still need a real job now? he called me with words that I cannot say right here on this Zoom. He was like, whatever you did, you need to do a lot more of that. Like
keep doing that.
Keep doing that. So I mean, sometimes the one thing that it taught me though, John, as long as you believe in yourself, you can make a believe out of others. I believe that it could happen. And every step that I made, I always make sure that I would try to put myself in a position to where this thing could take me a little further. I believed in it, and now because I believe in it, they believe in it. Now, at my, I keep one Grammy here, just to keep everything in focus. But every other trophy is at my parents' house in a case that they had built because they believed. You know what I'm saying? It's like, so it was always a matter of making sure that I believed in myself. I believed in my dream. I believed in my vision, of what, and that was just something that I don't even know how I even got to that point. I mean, I would say some of it has to do with church, because I grew up in a church I grew up in a non-denominational church where, it was a thing where it was always about faith and, protecting your faith and practicing your faith, and then, and believing in, and doing, and, faith without works is dead. So make sure you get to do the work and not just believe in the faith. It was always that kind of thing. Yeah. And so that's how I kind of approached everything.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, music is the same way.
Music is the exact same way.
You have to put in that work.
Put in that work.
No one's going to give you anything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Wow, that's incredible.
I know that was a long answer to a short question.
No,
but
that was perfect. My God. I'm like inspired. I'm like ready to shut the laptop and do something. Yeah. Thank you, Steve. I gotta go. Yeah, man. So now you're starting to talk about some of the mentors, some of the people that helped you during that time. And you mentioned Erica, you mentioned the lawyer who started giving you in the right direction, some of your teachers. Who else? Is there anybody that you really looked up to, or people that mentors that really meant a lot to you? Either they could have been alive or people from the past, or anybody that really inspired you to towards your dream and continue to believe in yourself and get and not get, down on the part of the being patient part of this thing we do.
Oh yeah, I mean, yeah, plenty. I mean, most of y'all probably wouldn't know because there are people that are here from Dallas. There's always, and my parents, my parents, were cool, but uh, my really good friend Robert Seawright was really good about that. He's a phenomenal drummer too. He plays us as Snarky Puppy. Shucks, who can I start with? Greg Brown, Stanley Glenn, Sam Nix. Geez, I mean, there are lots of people, and that's like, and that's just, locally, Bobby Sparks,
yeah,
you know what I'm saying, Jerome Harmon, it's just lots of people, man, but I've always made it a point to keep positive people around me too. And that's why it's so many. I mentioned, Sam Nix. Sam Nix was the pastor of the church that I grew up in. And I don't know if this is a direct quote. I don't know if this is something that he made up or if it was something that he quoted from someone. But he would always tell us when we were younger, show me your friends and I'll show you your future.
Wow.
And so I always made it a point to, keep people around me that were like-minded, that do what I do. See, I think that's why me and you click so well.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It's like, because you're along that same kind of vibe that all of my friends are.
Thank you for saying that.
Yeah, no, seriously, man. You're along the same kind of vibe. There's always, there's always positive and negatives. There's always, a way to make it happen. There's always a chance to take. There's always a risk to take.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, man, do it. Do it. Do what you want to do, then die. I've always made it a point to keep friends like that, around me. And it's so many names. Daniel Jones, who's younger than me. Xavier Jackson, who's younger than me. Quentin Gray, who's younger than me. These people they still shape me to this day.
Yeah. Man, that's fantastic. You said something really important. You said about taking risks. Was there ever a time in your career where you had maybe a decision to make that was risky? I mean, just being a musician is risky, but ever could you share something where maybe you had something to lose or?
Yeah, well, every day you got something to lose.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know what I'm saying?
Indeed.
I mean, I think the biggest thing as a music producer, you take a risk every time because there's always a risk that somebody might not like what it is you have to present. And there's always there's always the risk of them saying no.
Yeah.
There's always the risk of you being disappointed. There's always the risk of things not working out the way that you want them to, and you have to navigate through that. I think one of the biggest lessons on risks for me, past being, a producer and all of that, was playing with Snarky Puppy. That was a risk. That was a risk because at the end of the day, what really happened was Mike had this vision and I just took the risk with him. It was like, okay, this is what you want to do. We'll pile up in this van and go wherever, and we'll tour, and it was like I said, it was times where, I was risking because even in my adult life, I became the minister of music at a mega church, at the age of
Wow.
20, 23, 24 years old.
Yeah.
When I say mega church, I mean, like, this is a Baptist church in Dallas, Texas that has like 12,000 members, like a mega church,
And you
so
were
it
in
was like,
charge of the music.
yeah, I'm in charge of the music, the fine arts, everything fine arts, at 24 years old. So it was like, but at the same token, the one thing I will say, about Dr. Haynes, that was the pastor. He is the pastor of French Coast Baptist Church. He never allowed me to not live out my dream. So his whole thing was, as long as the bases are covered and you're able to do what you're able to do what you do, go and do it. And
Beautiful.
so when Mike Lee and I started to connect, it was a matter of, okay, we're gonna go on tour. It's 37 cities, and we're gonna ride in this van with a trailer, and every night we unpack the trailer, set up, play, load up the trailer, go to the next city.
Wow.
But there were a lot of risks, because what people see now for Snarky Puppy is they see the Layla video, and they see the Lingus video, and they see like all these millions of views, whatever. But it's like, yeah, but you didn't see us in Hasbro, Mississippi when there was 5 people.
Yeah, they didn't see the 10 years before that.
Yeah, they see the times before that. It's like, they didn't see us, in Jackson Hole, Wyoming, when we basically played for ourselves. We played for ourselves, and some beverages. And the beverages was our pay. You know what I'm saying? It was like, it's like, yeah, but we had so much fun making the music, and over time, the more risks you take, over time, they pay for themselves. So, so now here we are sitting up, waiting for the 63rd annual, Grammy Awards to see if we're going to win again. Knock on wood. Hopefully we do. So right. So
yeah.
There are risks to take this, and this as a band leader and as a solo artist, you take a risk every time.
Yeah.
You take a risk every time that that you want to put yourself out there. What if people don't? What if people don't like it? What if what if you feel like you could do more? What if So yeah.
Yeah. Exactly. It's always hard when you're trying something new or interesting or something that's new to you, and part of being a musician, I think, to give yourself the best chance, you have to be honest about who you are and what you're interested in, put that forward. But that also means you're vulnerable.
You're very vulnerable.
You love this, you're trying your best, and here you are. And someone may be like, he's all right. Let's try the next guy. And it's like, that happens,
Yeah, that's the point. That's the point when you realize, do you do it for the love that you have, or for the love that you give? And what I mean by that is, are you doing it, because you love exactly who you are and what you do? So this is why I'm doing it, as opposed to the love that you give, meaning, I'm giving this to you, but it might not be reciprocated. Will my feelings be hurt? Will my feelings be fragile? It's like, I'm really do this for the love that I have, and let everybody gravitate to me, rather than me do this for the love of them, and I try to gravitate to everybody else. Because so many talented people out there, man, that they won't do it because they're scared of what somebody else thinks.
Yeah.
Do it. Do it. And if nothing else, you can walk away with a catalog that's negotiable. If nothing else, you walk away with a catalog full of your music that's negotiable. So it's almost kind of like an investment, if you will.
Yeah, this is your work. At the end of the day, you can show what you did.
That's right.
And then let the cookie crumble, or whatever.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yep. Let it come where it may.
Yeah,
Hmm.
whatever happens, you showed up and did your part. And
That's right.
then, yeah, and put yourself, like you said, about putting yourself in a position to succeed. And even though you're scared and you keep going forward with that, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. So, let me see, what else can I ask you? We talked about mentors. How about this? Did you ever have any aha moments or something where something clicked that you're like a nugget that was, this is really important. If I do this, something that maybe you weren't doing before, or a realization of a piece of knowledge that really helped you out once you discovered something simple that you weren't doing before, or anything like that that was
Music wise or life wise?
uh, in general, and
In general?
a life of music, or in playing music, or in anything. Could be the music business, could be like, for me, for example, I used to never sing the melody to myself when playing.
Hmm.
So we're playing, Stella by Starlight, and you play the melody, and then the solo starts, and then within 3 bars, I was lost. I was gone. So I'm looking around. I'm looking at the bass player, and
Yeah.
I'm looking at the drummer.
Right,
The
right.
drummer's like trying to give me what it is,
Right,
right
right,
here.
right.
And then I'm just like, no. So I would play like things that would make sense no matter what else is going on, and then just see if hopefully I would get the second half, or hopefully I would make it to the bridge, or you know. And then somebody said to me, "Hey, John, if you practice singing the melody, and then when you're soloing, try to keep that melody behind you, and then you don't have to guess where you are. You're just wherever the melody is at."
Hmm.
And I'd never thought of music that way, and I've been playing music my whole life, right? So I was maybe like 20, 21, and then it was like, okay, this was a game changer, because now it was like I have to practice being able to do those two things at the same time. Hear what I want to say, and somehow maintain the structure of what we're doing at the same time. And it,
Hmm.
and the better I got at singing melodies, it wasn't, now I could, start doing some polyrhythms and stuff like that. And it wasn't like this magical thing. I had no idea. I couldn't understand how could somebody be playing at two tempos at the same time, and also keep the song structure and play these incredible licks, and look over at the drums and be like, yeah,
Yeah.
like I, if music was mind blowing to me, and just with that one little piece of advice was like like a piece of the foundation that I was missing for a long
Hmm.
time.
Hmm. No, no, I can totally relate. I can totally relate to that. There was time I was a teenager and I was playing Amazing Grace at church,
Hmm.
and this old lady, she told me, she said, "You'll play it when you know it," and I was like,
You
"Oh."
what?
She said, "You'll play it when you know it," and but what she meant by that was I was playing Amazing Grace, how sweet the sound, saved a wretch like me. I once was
Hmm.
lost, but now found, was blind, and now see. And she was saying, like, once you know it, you'll play it. And I was like,
Oh, knowing the
okay, all right,
lyrics too. Knowing the
yeah,
lyrics,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. And that was something that there used to be a saxophone player here, Marshall Ivory. He passed away. He was another legendary saxophone player. He played with Cedar Walton, and
Oh my
you know
God,
they're all from Dallas. Cedar Walton, Red Garland,
man,
they're off
I
they're off
love Red
here from Dallas.
Garland. Yeah, and Cedar.
And he would always say, the jazz standards you love, learn the lyrics.
Hmm.
He was like, it'll help you play differently. You'll
Yeah,
understand why that melody is like that once you understand why that lyric is like that.
yeah.
So that's something I learned. I can relate to that. The only other thing that I really learned, I think it's the only other thing I really learned, but one thing I learned as an adult, um, is you make time for what's important to you. And as you keep growing and going, it gets harder and harder to practice. It gets harder to,
Yes.
it gets harder to do the things that you need to do to maintain your fundamentals. But you have to figure out a way that time management, to make time to do what it is you're supposed to do. I think those are, those are two important things. And the other thing I learned, my aha moment was, if you're in music, get a lawyer that specializes in music. Don't go get a divorce lawyer. like get a lawyer that specializes in music and not car wrecks or something. You know what I'm saying?
My shoe cobbler gave me great advice. He fixed up my shoes, and then we signed this contract. It was great.
Yeah, exactly. You know what I'm saying? It's like, nah, man, like go, go ahead and find you a really good, entertainment lawyer that can, that knows what's going on. Yeah, because it's important. Because the music business is ever changing. Music business is like technology, because it basically evolves around technology. So it's ever changing, right? So it's pretty important to have that.
Yes. Yeah, that is something I need to do some research on, for sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, I don't want to take up too much of your time. I appreciate you so much for doing this, and it is such an honor to be able to call you a friend. And I got to tell you, every time we hang out, it's like a blast. You're one of the most positive and like it is a joy to be around you. Like,
same
it really
here, man.
is. I just want to be around you just because it makes me happy. Like, we don't have to play music, like, it's just a joy.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Around you. You have your spirit, man. It is just, there's something in there, man.
Hey, man. Like draws like, buddy. So yeah, I totally understand. You're the same way.
Hey, I want some of this love. I want to be around both of you too.
Hey, let's do it.
Man. Come on, man.
Hey, I get to though. So that's what's awesome. I don't mean to interrupt, but there's a couple questions. You mind if I throw some questions at Shaun?
Yes.
So Michael Kernuttel is in the session today. Is one of our great education partners, and really special to us. What's up, Michael? And Michael asking Shaun if you could touch on some of your most memorable performances. He says it as like, what's your top three? But if something comes to mind, we'd love to hear your take on it.
Sure. I think one of my most memorable performances, and this is a dual thing. So Snarky Puppy year before last. That's so crazy. 2020 just like threw off everything. Year before last,
Yep.
we did a concert at Royal Albert Hall in London, right? That's the one that's nominated for the Grammy. And so it's it was a sold out performance at Royal Albert Hall. I can't remember. I think Royal Albert Hall holds about 6,000-7,000 people. It's I don't know. I don't want to say the numbers because I could be wrong, because there was a lot of people in that place. But the fact of the matter is that you're talking about this band that, remember, a few stories ago, I was talking about this band that started in a van that was playing for 5 people in Hattiesburg, Mississippi. Now it's playing a sold out show, at Royal Albert Hall in London. But the weird part about that is that, I played that with Snarky Puppy, my good friends. The other memorable performance was when I played it with Kirk Franklin a few years ago, right? And there was another, sold out thing, and I was sort of thinking about, when Kirk was starting out, humble beginnings. And I think my other most memorable performance was playing at the Essence Festival with Erykah Badu. That was those are the top three only because I know where they came from. Like I know where Erica comes from. You know, I know where Cycle came from. But I'll tell you the fourth one, and this one really could be number one. but that Royal Albert Hall was kind of special. But my fourth one was playing with Michael McDonald last year at the Ground Up Festival.
Yes,
that was the one. Like that was. It was almost like being a 5-year-old all over again. Mm-hmm. And at the Ground Up Festival, I got the chance to interview him as well. So so my first question was, I was like, "Hey, Mike, listen, exactly what is Yamo, and when will it be there? Like what is that?
Yes.
But the story that he has behind that song is actually very interesting. Him and James Ingram, they never recorded that song at the same time. So
wow.
Yeah, they recorded that song separately. Yeah, it's
get out of here. That's wild.
It's a trip. Yeah, it's a trip. So like I say, so I tell you those three again because I know where it comes from. I know where Kurt comes from. I know where Snuck comes from. But that Michael McDonald, yeah, that was kind of special.
Yeah,
and I remember this moment where you guys did a duet, just the two of you.
Yeah, we did. John, Hallelujah. It was his version of Hallelujah.
And now, did you guys rehearse that? Was that pre-planned, or did that just happen in that moment?
So we were supposed to rehearse it, and we didn't. And so when they started asking for an encore, because I had left, I got off the organ. I thought it was done. Yeah. And then all of a sudden it was like, hey, Mike wants you to come back and play organ. I'm like, okay, what we doing? like what's the next song? Right. It's like, Cherokee and B flat. Okay, cool. And then he was like, we're gonna do. And the only reason why I knew that song that well, it wasn't because of his version. He sent us a demo of it or whatever.
Okay.
And I listened to it, but we spent the day before practicing everything else other than that.
Else. Plus all the performances you had, the 3 days.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. But a few weeks prior, even though is it Michael Cohen or John Cohen? The originator of Hallelujah.
Michael Cohen, right? No. Leonard Cohen.
Leonard Cohen. I'm sorry.
Leonard Cohen.
Yes. I'm saying a story about Michael McDonald. Think about Leonard Cohen.
I said Michael Cohen too.
So, but a few weeks ago, we were supposed to, a few weeks prior to that, because that was 2019. The end of 2018, we did a produced rendition with Kirk Franklin for a movie of Leonard Cohen's Hallelujah, and it didn't make it. The only reason why I didn't make it is because his estate didn't want the song Hallelujah to be tied to a religious entity, and we totally understood that.
Yeah.
So it was like not a problem, but yeah, I had no idea, but I was like, hey, Mike wants you to come back out and play the organ. I was like, okay, what are we doing? What song?
Oh my God! So you're sitting there with one of your heroes. He said, at a huge festival with all your friends who are incredible artists, multi-international recording artists. They're all there looking at you, and they're saying, Michael's like, hey, let's play a tune together. How do you keep your stuff together? How did you, relax in that moment and go, sure, let's do this?
Well, after, it was actually cool, man. Mr. McDonald is hands down one of the nicest people you'll ever meet on this earth. I mean, he is one of the nicest guys you'll ever meet. So, it was actually, really cool. And we had already spent, so many days together, so it worked out, but yeah, man, that was a trip.
We were before we started this session, we were talking about when Shaun was with us at Clearwater Jazz Holiday in 2017 with a really special Weather Report tribute that played, and that was right before Michael McDonald as well, right? And I remember how down to earth he was. You know, he's walking around backstage just kind of hanging with a lot of our supporters before he went up onto the stage, and he seemed so genuinely interested and accessible in not only the festival tradition but the education mission behind Jazz Holiday, and so that must have been kind of cool too. Although I don't know, did you get a chance to talk with him there?
Mm-hmm.
You did, okay. Yeah.
I did, but I was too busy. I was fanboying. I can't lie. I was fanboying because it was him. So it's Michael McDonald. Okay, first of all, let's start over. So the Weather Report band, right? Yeah. Jason Miles. Jason Miles puts together this band of these all-star killer cats like Gerald Beasley, the last bass player to play for the Weather Report. Gerald Beasley, Karen Briggs. Who played that trumpet player?
Was it oh, who was it? Not Manu Sinal.
But Manu played too.
Manu played.
Manu, yes.
Oh well, of course.
Theo Croker.
Theo and Carter on drums, right?
It Carter both on drums. So like the band is like slamming, and so of course, I'm probably more nervous about playing because I'm like these guys. You know, you talk about Jason Miles was like programmer extraordinaire / you know the soundtrack to like. And when I say soundtrack, Jason Miles is a great programmer / sound designer. Right, yeah. He's a great player too, but that was his thing. So a lot of those modern day Miles albums and Luther albums and all this stuff, that was him creating those sounds. You know, like I'm talking about like MIDI, yeah, 10% this, 10%. You know, that was him. God. That was him doing that. So you got Jason Miles, you got Gerald Beasley, who's a Philadelphia legend on bass. You know, Karen Briggs, who's wherever that plays with Yanni. Karen plays with Yanni. You know what I'm saying? Like, come on, man. You know, Theo is entertaining his own right. Also plays with Dee Bridgewater. You know, I mean, like all these monster players. I'm like, and then Carter, Dave Matthews, man, Carter. Oh, okay. All right.
Wait, Jeff Coffin was there.
And Jeff Coffin. Yes. And Jeff Coffin. That's my dog. That's my homie. You know, it's like, yo, like, how do I maintain composure with this? And so I'm walking around, and then all of a sudden I bump into Michael McDonald. It's like, all right, something's wrong. And a good friend of mine, Drew Tucker, he's living in Florida. He was with me. And so Drew was like, you know, already kind of like, me and him both were kind of like, I don't know what I just signed up for here. Like, this is kind of amazing. And so then we walk around, and then there's Michael McDonald. And he said so casually, he was like, there's Michael McDonald. And I'm like, there's Michael McDonald. And then right behind Michael McDonald comes Kenny Loggins. And I'm like, that's Kenny Loggins. and so yeah, that was a pretty surreal moment.
Yeah, it was a special night. And I can tell you from the fan perspective, you just look around and you could just feel it, you know. Everybody was just in it. And it was beautiful. We were so happy you were part of that. And I do want to, there's a question I just see here from one of the young players in the area. Give a shout out to Charlie Lois there. Thanks for being here, Charlie. A little context, Shaun, is that one of the programs, this Young Lions virtual sessions, is a complement to a traditional program called the Young Lions Jazz Master Sessions that creates all these learning opportunities for mostly high school jazz students, not only in the Tampa Bay area but beyond. And we also go into the school system. And I know Charlie has benefited from a lot of those programs, but is a really talented piano keyboard player. on the cuff of waiting to see what schools he's about to get into. He's all in that right now, and he just played at one of our Wanderlust events too. Just a great talent, and excited for him. And he asked a question. He said, when practicing, do you have tips on effectively utilizing time so you don't get bored?
Oh yeah, plan it. Yeah, plan it out. Yeah. So like, so I'll tell you, where is, man? I think it's in the other room. So what I started doing, and this is kind of an unfair advantage that I have, was I actually kept all of the, notebooks that I had from Miss Campbell when I was studying with Miss Campbell.
Oh
So
my gosh.
going all the way back to like, the 80s, I have like all these spiral notebooks. And so what I started doing was, a while ago, I started going back through and basically practicing what she had written down. And because in each lesson, we start with scales and arpeggios, right? At whatever BPM she puts, and you had a certain way that you had to do those. And then whatever that we always worked on three pieces. Normally like, something classical, something from the classical era, something that was jazz, and then something that was more like technical. So like a hand and a piece, right? Mm-hmm. So I started going back through and looking through that, and I realized something. I realized that what I had was a plan. So now when I sit down and I have this plan, I'm able to be more effective as opposed to just sitting down and saying, I'm gonna read through 72 pages of the fake book. So what I would suggest is, just have a plan, have an agenda, and if you want to practice a standard or something, just make sure plan out to practice that standard. And people forget a lot of the times playing is really half the battle. Listening is the other half. So you can also practice by listening, and so, say you want to play Autumn Leaves, listen to 3 of your favorite piano players play their rendition of Autumn Leaves. What do you take away from that? Sit down, and dissect it, transcribe solos, but make a plan, because that's the best way to maximize your time is to have a plan. And so if you're gonna practice from 12 to 2, have a plan from 12 to 2, because along with that plan comes discipline. That means at 11:59, turn your phone off. It's that kind of vibe.
Yeah.
So I hope that answers the question.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, no, that's great. Thank you for that, Shaun. John, I know we're getting a little past the hour mark here, and I've got typical remarks to help conclude the session. Okay. But I wanted to give you an opportunity to take it wherever else you wanted to go before we turn down.
I gotta say one thing. Shaun is an incredible band leader. He takes care of his guys. He's got an incredible band. I've seen him live. They're amazing. Each one of them does their own projects. They all tour with different artists, and he has got at least 3 records under your own name, right? 7 Summers, Focus, and 3-0. Do you have a copy of 3-0 or anything?
Have them.
Oh, right there. So if any of you are watching out there, I implore you to please go to, what's the best place to get your albums on Bandcamp?
Yep, you can go to
your
Bandcamp.
Website?
It all links together. Mm-hmm. So you can go to Bandcamp and get it.
Excellent. And I think it's shaunmartin.bandcamp.com. And just, the great thing about his music is, I believe you own all of the music that you put out there. So when you support Shaun Martin, it goes directly to him. And if you love what he does and want to see him continue to do this, the best way is to book him, go see him play live wherever you are, and to buy his records. And after you buy it, then you can stream it.
Right. That's right. Thank you, man. Thank you for that.
Yeah, so this I've been smiling for an hour right now. I've just been really excited. John and I were already texting each other leading up to this day. I think I sent him a text yesterday. I just said,
Yes.
"I'm so happy Shaun is participating in this," and it really means a lot to us, Shaun. Yeah, we hope to see you back with our educational efforts in the future. But
Absolutely.
I know we'll be in touch with you about different performance opportunities too as the Clearwater Jazz Holiday tradition continues. It's always really, really special when you are with us. And I want to remind everybody, well, first, I want to thank those that participated today. A lot of people watch and listen in the future. They watch as part of the studio at clearwaterjazz.com. And all of these sessions get archived there, and then the audio portion of these sessions get put up on the Young Lions Jazz Master Virtual Sessions podcast, which has just hit close to like 5,000 total plays in just the few
Oh
months
my
that we've
God.
been doing it. We have a couple hundred sessions up there with all kinds of just amazing musicians and educators building this treasure that's for free. It's supported by the Clearwater Jazz Holiday Foundation. And I want to thank the sponsor of the studio, Blue Water Wealth Management at Steward Partners and Duke Energy. And I also want to thank the presenter of the podcast, Marine Max Clearwater, down in our neck of the woods, for helping to present those resources for students of all ages and abilities at no cost, and making that stuff accessible to everybody who wants it. So you can find all the upcoming sessions if you want to participate live, like we're doing right now, at clearwaterjazz.com's education and outreach section. Just look at the upcoming sessions, and we put up new ones up all the time. So on behalf of the Clearwater Jazz Holiday Foundation, I want to thank John O'Leary. I want to thank Shaun Martin. And I want to thank everybody for supporting us. Stay safe out there, everybody. Be well. Keep playing, keep practicing, keep being creative. And we'll see everybody real soon. John, Shaun, thanks again.
Thank
Absolutely.
you.
All right, take care, everybody.